Let's go to game number 2 that we're going to preview. Going to go a little bit deeper in this one because I think this one has a chance to be really competitive. It's Tennessee traveling to Florida, and we know that the Gators have not lost a home game to Tennessee since 2003, so they have a 9 straight win streak in the process against the Volunteers there in the Swamp. Here's some of the questions that I need answered for both Tennessee and for Florida, and just for the matchup in general. Can Tennessee continue their dominance on the ground? Of course, we look at what they did as of right now. They are 4th in college football in rushing yards per game. Take into account, yes, it's Virginia. Yes, it's an FCS opponent. Either way, Tennessee, 257 rushing yards a game. And it's not just, one guy. I mean, they're spreading it out evenly amongst a bunch of guys. I mean, they got a lot of guys at running back that are very solid. Jalen Wright has over 9 yards a carry. He's been amazing. Jabari Small, over 6 yards a carry. Dylan Sampson has 4 touchdowns in the opener against Virginia. I mean, they have 3 backs that can flat out get it. But here's the thing that's amazing is that they're having this much success on the run game, even in spite of being at full strength along the offensive line. They have played pretty well. Obviously, the left side of the offensive line, a couple transfers. You got John Campbell there at left tackle. You got Andre Carrick there at left guard. You got Javonte Spraggins, who's a holdover from last year at right guard. And then Gerald Mincey, who's finally in after being unwilling to play left tackle for a while. He's now playing right tackle. He looks pretty good in the run game. Pass pro, maybe a bit of a question as of right now, but still, run game looks very solid. And then if they can somehow get Cooper Mays back this week, still a question mark as of right now. He's their center, but he was a preseason all-SEC pick at center. If he could be back this week, that would go a long way in making that offensive line look even better than they've looked through 2 weeks. And like I've said, they've looked pretty good. They're going up against a really stout run defense. Now, Florida, not as crazy disruptive as they've been in the past, but they've done a pretty good job against 2 outfits against the run. Utah, just 105 rushing yards, but the running backs had only 66. So obviously, Wildcat quarterback Nate Johnson had some big plays with his legs, but the running backs, for the most part, held in check against that Florida defensive line. McNeese State had just 46 yards rushing, so it's hard to really get a feel as to whether or not last week's performance is an indicator of future success. They're not a group that's really going to penetrate and create a lot of negatives, but they'll be strong and stout at the point. They have 5 defensive tackles that are over 320 pounds, including one that's 420 pounds or so, depending on what time of day you decide to weigh them in. So that's the big question. Can Tennessee continue to run the ball at will? I think it's going to be obviously a lot harder against a Florida group that's going to likely sell out against the run. Question number 2, can the Tennessee passing attack get going? Joe Milton's been okay. I would not say he's been good. I would not say he's been terrible. I'd say he's been okay, but we need more from him. Right now, he's 10th in the SEC in passing yards. That's not going to get it done for Tennessee. Good news is, even though the explosive plays haven't been there, he's been really smart with the football. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. He has yet to throw an interception in a Tennessee uniform. That's 207 pass attempts since his last interception. Ironically enough, his last interception actually came against Wisconsin in 2020. The quarterback of that Wisconsin team, one Graham Mertz, he'll be facing off against this weekend, who is now the quarterback of the Florida Gators. The explosive plays have to come at some point through the air. That's who Tennessee's identity's been in the last couple of years. And unless they just completely alter who they are and become a run-first outfit, which I don't anticipate, this offense, if it's going to reach its potential, has to hit some of the plays downfield. You think about where they were last year. They had 55 plays that went for 20-plus yards, 27 plays that went for 40-plus yards last year. So far this year, just 4 pass plays of 20-plus yards and 2 of 40-plus yards. And the longest pass play as of right now was a screen to McAllen Castles. So they're going to have to be better. Milton last week was just 2 for 9 on throws that traveled downfield. And then through the intermediates, between 10 and 20 yards or so, just 4 of 12 last week. So he's got to be a whole heck of a lot better on the intermediate accuracy. He's got to be better on the downfield accuracy. And then I'm also curious, too, What's Florida's approach going to be? Do they sell out against the run and dare Joe Milton to get more accurate on the downfield throws? Or do they maybe play a little more conservatively, hope that they can hold up front in the run game while trying to defend the deep ball like teams have done up to this point? So that's, I think, a big question mark. Can the Tennessee passing attack get going against a group that I'm not sure exactly what they're going to prioritize as far as what they take away? The other things that I'm worried about in this game are checking out in this game. Can Florida's run game get going? The offense against Utah, a little one-dimensional. They couldn't get a whole lot going on the ground against Utah. As a result, it was the Graham Mertz show. But last week against McNeese, went for about 6.5 a carry. Obviously not a good example of the type of defense they're going to be playing against this weekend. Montrell Johnson's got to get a bunch of touches. I think you got to get Trevor Etienne. Those two combined, I'd like to see both with about 40 touches in the game. Probably Montrell about 25. I think Etienne maybe 10 to 15. Then if you get Webb in there, he's the number 3 back. He had a nice look against McNeese last week. Couple touchdowns in the process, up to 71 yards. Maybe they get him going a little bit involved as well, give him a couple touches, or at least in a 2-back situation, maybe he gets a look or two. They're going against a defensive line that's been outstanding. They have completely overwhelmed the first 2 teams they've played. They lead the SEC in tackles for loss with 25 and have allowed just 87 yards rushing per game up to this point. Of course, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to run it on a group that moves and stunts and features athleticism. So if they can't run it, can Graham Mertz beat Tennessee? It's a big question. So far on the underneath stuff, he's been lights out. He's 35 of 39 on throws that travel less than 10 yards downfield. Most of that is going to be at the line of scrimmage. I think he's 16 of 17 on throws at the line of scrimmage and has just 3 incompletions on throws under 10. But are they going to basically come up? Tennessee, are they going to come up and get aggressive with a defense that appears to be very improved? Their pass defense, I think, is better. I really believe that they are. Part of the reason why I feel like their pass defense is improved is because I think they do a really good job as far as rushing the passer. They have 11 sacks through 2 games, whether it's James Pierce, Norman Lott, Tyler Barron, and then, of course, Aaron Beasley with the blitzes that he's able to bring from the second level. That's a handful to take into account the type of speed and aggression that they play with. He's going to go after Ricky Pearsall, and I think Tennessee needs to sell out against Ricky Pearsall. So far, 20 targets so far this year. The next closest Gator has only been targeted 6 times. So Ricky Pearsall, the all-points bulletin for Tennessee defensively, will be on the transfer from Arizona State. The last thing you need to take into account, Tennessee has kind of struggled on the road. People will point to last year's LSU game as the anomaly. I agree. Last year's LSU game was a phenomenal performance. They jumped out and got going pretty quick. But you look at some of the other performances. They were down 10-0 to South Carolina, 17-7 to Pittsburgh, 21-3 against Georgia. They have not gotten off to great starts on the road in the last 2 years, so they need to be better on the road in what should be a hostile environment. I lean Tennessee in the game. I just think they have a little bit too much firepower, and I think Joe Milton's due. I think he's going to play better. I still expect the pass rush for Tennessee to have some success, and I think Graham Mertz will feel the heat a little bit if they can't get one of their other wide receivers going. So I'm taking the Vols, and I also think I'm not quite going to lay the points. I don't trust them enough just yet to do that. But I think the Vols close in this game.